right, so y'all know, I just want to get this out there. Y'all know I got bit by a spider a couple years ago. I've still got some nerve in my leg, so there will be I'll be doing a little bit of sitting instead of walking around and jumping because my leg still gets sore and shakes on me a little bit. It's okay. Still sound okay? Is it feeding back? Okay. All right, Tim. All right, anyway, for those of you that don't know a whole lot about me, I'm from northwestern Illinois. We have recently moved to Kentucky Lake, very local. A few hours away from here. I still swear I can hear that thing. Anyway.
Yeah, just a bit.
Just a bit.
See if I move this. How about that? That better?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, you do have a little feedback, okay. We'll get it worked out. Anyway, y'all know where I'm from, and I've been guiding up there for 15 years now. As a young kid, I chased a lot of channel cats. I feel like channel cats are kind of the gateway drug for the catfishermen. A lot of people say bluegill are kind of the gateway drug for fishermen. I say I don't necessarily recognize all the other species of fish as actual fish. I was never really born into that other pool of fishing, the crappie and the walleye and the muskie and all that. You know, my dad, he carried me across creeks and streams when I was 2, 3, 4 years old, when I was too small to do it myself, and I'd sit on the sandbar, and like a lot of people here, my first experiences with fishing were setting bank poles and throw lines. You know, back in the day, a lot of people caught fish because they needed to eat, which is, is a problem I think we run into today. We're too quick to bash people. You know, the word we want to spread today about what we do in the catfishing world is we want our big fish to go back, but we got to be careful to bash people that like to go fishing and keep a few fish to eat. I like to preach selective harvest. You know, take what you need, take the right size of fish, put the big fish back. I am not the kind of person that you're going to see on the internet bashing somebody because they kept a 50-pounder. I'd much rather befriend that individual, tell them what I think about it, and if I can convert them, great. But if they're not breaking the law, I'm certainly not going to judge them. The internet world of catfishing has become a crap hole of nastiness, unfortunately. So what we can do, before I get into the flatheads, we can all do our part to change that. Don't respond to drama, don't spread drama, don't start drama. The people that want to, leave that be. Catfishing was bred and born, you know, guys sitting on a riverbank or on a campfire having a good old time catching fish, you know, taking their kids fishing, getting out of the boat on the weekend with grandpa catching fish. We don't want to lose sight of what catfishing really is all about. It's all about fun. And I think on the world of the internet right at the present time, a lot of people have kind of lost sight of that. And we need to get back to that. So that's the only spiel I'm going to give you on my thoughts. I'm a selective harvest fisherman. I want to tell you what started my passion for flathead fishing was I actually got a call from a friend of mine one day, and he's a bass fisherman. So I usually ignored his phone calls during the summer because I had absolutely no desire to go bass fishing. But he said, hey, let's take the bass boat out, we'll catch some live bait, and we'll go flathead fishing. I was all about that. At the time, I was in my late teen years, early 20, you know, and I had done some flathead. I caught a lot of flatheads at that time, but I had not started targeting flatheads yet. So I went with him, we netted some shad, and we're going to talk a lot about shad today. I had netted some shad, and all I had to fish with that day was a couple of Zebco rhinos, because up until that time, a lot of my fishing was channel cat fishing. So I get my Zebco rhinos, I hop in his, I think it was a Triton bass boat. We scoot up the water way too fast. And we get up there and we fish around, you know, we caught a couple little flatheads, and then, you know, finally I get this pop on the end of my line, and I didn't recognize what that pop was. I mean, I was, you know, this is 25, 30 years ago, I didn't know what that pop was. And then this fish started to pull over, you know, so I'm standing there and this fish takes me down to the water and I right back and I miss him clean. You know, so I'm thinking, well, you know. So anyway, I run back, I grab another shad, I throw it out there, and within 2 minutes, the fish picks that bait up again. And this time I'm not going to miss, so I do one of them Mike Iaconelli bull trap things he does, and I run up to the front of the boat and I follow this fish all the way down the boat, and I get to the back of the boat and I set the hook with everything I got. I snap the rhino. I snapped this Zebco rhino off about right here, but I hooked the fish. So now I'm sitting there with a Zebco rhino that's got about, I have like 3 pounds of drag, and I've got a jagged edge on my rod, and I've got 1 line guide. So I got this bait handed reel, and I look like somebody the first time they pick up, you know, they got their spinning reels upright. I'm reeling my bait caster this way, and I'm fighting this flathead, you know. And flathead's wearing me out. My back hurts because I don't have any of the rod to wear the fish out. I fight this fish, and I fight this fish, and I fight this fish, and finally I land it. And if you've ever seen, how many of you knew me back when I had the Catfish Academy? I knew you did. If you ever find that on Facebook, you'll see there's a flathead on there. My guide service has been called Flathead Freaks. This fish, as soon as I seen it, that's what I yelled. Man, that thing's a freak! You know, so I had a replica of that fish made. I've still got that fish. I was actually going to bring it today, and we didn't bring it, but I wanted to tell you that story. Anyway, I landed that fish, obviously. I got rid of my Zebco rhinos. I had 1.5 left at the end of that day, so I got rid of those, and I started upgrading. And when I say upgrade, that's what we're going to move into next. I have worked for companies. I've worked for G3CO. I've worked for a lot of these boat companies, and the biggest argument you get into on flathead fishing is, what's the most important thing that can make you a better flathead fisherman, that can help you catch more fish? I've been fishing for catfish for 43 years. I didn't jump on the internet 3 years ago and post 10 pictures and say I'm good. I've been doing this a long, long time. And a lot of people will debate what it is. What's the best bait to use? What's the best tackle to use? I can tell you that if you go down there and buy an Alunacraft, a Sea Arc, a ProCat XL, I can guarantee you that none of them boats, any boat manufacturer out there, you can get any one you want, none of them will catch more flathead for you, or catfish, period, okay? They're all nice products, you can buy one, but a boat doesn't catch you fish, okay? But I will tell you, in my opinion, over the years, if you're a boat fisherman, about targeting flathead catfish, where you put your boat will catch you more fish. And I'm going to show you, a lot of people say bait's the most important thing about flathead fishing. Time of the day or night's the most important thing about flathead fishing. You got to use a broomstick pole and a 100-pound braid and 15-aught hooks. That's the most important thing. The most important thing is you put your baits. Anybody says any different, send them to me, and me and him will argue all day, and then we'll just agree to disagree. You know, because we all have our own opinion. Where you put your boat dictates where you put your bait, and with flathead fishing most of the year, where you put your bait and your boat dictates if you're going to catch big flatheads on a regular basis. Now, I want to give you a heads up before I try to illustrate a couple of these for you. I am the world's suckiest artist. If any of you know a sucky artist, I'd be right there below him.
I got that.
Okay, well, we'll talk afterwards. You haven't seen me draw yet. Okay, I'm going to whip up something here for you, and believe me, I'm not trying to draw no piece de resistance, but feedback is killing me.
Hey, we got
You're gonna, oh man.
Mike Chavez,
It's gonna be
Palomino.
bad.
How y'all
Okay, we're
doing?
gonna go,
Palomino.
we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, do that, we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do this. Oh no, that looks too much like it. Oh yeah, we can't do that. All right, here we go. All right.
That's way better action too.
That's not supposed to be a fish, so don't say, man, you are bad. Okay, I'm going to give you an idea of what this is here real quick. I really like doing this. I know some people have them fancy, little screen things they do through, but I really like being able to draw because I feel like you get more out of it. And you can also tell people, man, that guy can talk, but he couldn't draw with like crap. This is a tree laying in the water, correct? Can you see that?
Oh yeah.
All right, root ball, tree trunk, limbs. I think it's perfectly fine. You're pretty all right. Arrow is dictating the current flow, okay? Where would you want to anchor your boat? Here, here, here?
I'd come right in the middle.
Okay. If you see this root ball and you can visually see it, it's an external piece of cover, it's sticking up, and you can clearly watch the water and see which way the current's flowing, okay? If you have a cross flow on that log, you don't want to center your boat on that log. If you've got flow, this way, okay? Because you're going to throw this bait on this root ball, and you want to put baits. I like to throw my baits off about 2 feet. By the time they settle the current, they're going to float right in here. That's where you want them, okay? But if you have current flowing this way, you throw a bait here, and it floats in here, you still catch that fish, but good luck getting him out of there. You know what I'm saying? So boat position means a lot, not only where your baits are going to be, but if you can get the fish out of there. If any of you have caught big flatheads, you know you need everything working in your favor. You want every possible variable to be in your favor. You know, you want your line in good shape, you want your boat in the right position, you want everything right. So this dictates a ton. Don't just find your cover, your submerged cover, or your external cover, and just center your boat on it and think that's good. Make sure you pay attention to your current flow. You want to make sure, because if the current flow is, again, crossways in any way, you're going to have one bait that's not going to be where you want it. Take the extra time, even if you have to. I'm going to do more fantastic illustrations later, just in case you missed this one already. Just in case you hook a big fish, you need to be in the right position. Also, again, when you get right with the current, it allows you to put your bait in the right position. Now, in front of cover like this, you almost always have a cup. I call it a cup. Some of you probably know this if you've done some flathead fishing. You know that a lot of times right here, in front of your root ball, you'll get a cup, and that's from water rolling. Almost like water when it comes over a dam, it churns, you get your scour out holes, which are a great place to catch flatheads occasionally. You get a hole here. This can be a great place for baits. This is a great place for baits. Okay? A lot of these flathead. How many of you caught flathead and they have right back just behind their gill plates, they're skinned up? They got marks on them, okay? They feel real secure undercover, okay? They love that. Now again, when we talk fishing, I never talk in absolutes. In other words, I'm not going to tell you that every catfish you catch in post-spawn that is set up on cover, that they're all going to be set up on cover and feeding. There's always exceptions to everything, okay? There's always an exception. There's always that one rogue fish out there swimming around that somebody catches, you know, and they're like, well, you said you catch all your flathead on cover. That don't mean you can't catch one random up on a flat feeding. That don't mean out on a ledge or something. What we're talking about when we say this kind of stuff is these are their tendencies. Follow me? Any questions yet? Not one question. You guys are good, man. Yes, sir. What do you say? Yeah, in reservoirs you get into a whole ball, different ball of wax. When they go dead, when there's no current, I'm not going to stand up here and tell you. That can be confusing. Those fish can do a million different things. If there's current, I'm going to find cover within that current or a ledge within that current. Or my favorite illustration, which I was getting ready to get to. I brought another board here somewhere. That's all right, I'll just use my
hang
hand. Hell, I'm a redneck anyway, we don't care. All right. In a reservoir or a river, if you don't have cover, say you don't have cover, this is your, can you see that red? We'll go back in black. Anybody know where I put my black marker? All you guys out there, nobody watched where I put my marker at? You're my support network. We're going to go with red.
Good choice.
Thank you. Red. So you got your riverbank. Sometimes your holes run close to the bank, say like on an outside bed, right? You got shallow water leading into your drop off. Okay? Corners of holes are awesome. That's a corner, that's a corner. A mid-river hole like this, you got a flat up here, flat over here, and holes out here. Corners. Doesn't mean you won't catch a big flat in here, or even throwing one up on the flat. But these are your likely tendencies, places I would target, even in a reservoir. Did that? Good? Again, like I said, current dictates a lot of that, so that can go a lot of different ways. And I know the last few years we've had, no matter where you were in the country, we've just had so much change. I mean, high water, low water, cold water, warm water. I've seen there's houses falling into the dang Tennessee River down there. Right? I mean, I know this is not being insensitive, but anytime a catfisherman hears of a house falling into the river or a barge sinking, we're like, cover. We hope they're okay, and then we're thinking, man, I can't wait to fish that. It's, again, I'm not being insensitive, I'm saying, the damage is done, so now they're in there, and, you hope everybody's all right and stuff, but you're thinking cover. So anyway, let's move on to some of the tools, because that's a big, and this young lady here, she's got to buy this rattle from me afterwards because she already touched it. So we're going to get into some of the tools of catfishing. Hot topic on the internet right now. So hot that people argue over it. There's products on the market, dragon chubs, demon dragons, all kinds of rattles and modifications, okay? There's a lot of that stuff on the internet. You don't need all that stuff to catch fish. You don't need all that stuff. We've been running offshore tackle planer boards. One of the owners of the company is sitting right over here, Nick DeShano. His dad, by the way, just got inducted into the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame. So if you don't think they know their stuff, so there's lots of tools, right? There's lots of arguments about, do you need these things? No, not really. Do you need to have if you come to me and say, Matt, we're leaving here this afternoon, and we're going to go over here to the Ohio River, and we want to catch flatheads or blue cats. We just want to go fishing. Do I need to run a planer board? Do I need to have a demon dragon? Do I need to have? No, you don't need to necessarily. Okay, but they're tools. How many days have you spent out fishing and you got done fishing and you said they're just not doing it today? Every one of you didn't raise your hands a liar. You're all a bunch of. I have to get Steve back over here. I thought they screened you guys better at the door, but apparently you all liars. Okay, we have all done that. We have all said that. I don't care who you are. We've said it. Those are the days when add no rattle to your live bait, add no rattle to your cut bait, using planer boards and spreading your baits out and maybe suspending them a little bit. Maybe those little differences are the things you want to have available in your boat. Nobody is saying that you have to buy planer boards to catch more catfish. Nobody is saying you have to buy rattles, this rod holder, that boat, that to catch fish. They're tools. Okay? It's an option to give you to make you better and more proficient at what you're doing. Okay? So don't think that you were trying to force this stuff down your throat. The thought of running planer boards for catfish was very, I mean, it almost sounded ridiculous to a lot of people 10 years ago. And even up until 4 or 5 years ago, it was still like, you know, I think people look at you sometimes and think you ain't playing with a full deck. You know, and I mean, I'm the first one to admit that I'm not. But, you know, planer boards, you know, they're for, the little planer boards are for crappie. And this is a walleye and a muskie and a salmon and that's what they're for, right? But no, catfish are very aggressive, okay? And planer boards ran right, and it's all about depth, it's all about speed. But if you're fishing in current, okay, and you're gonna anchor fish, so if you fall asleep, we'll have you removed from the building. I'm just kidding, take a nap, it's all right, I'm boring. Okay, so if you're sitting in the back of your boat, and you're fishing in heavy current, and you've got two poles thrown way out the back, you've got two thrown a little shorter, maybe you've got a couple suspended. Down here in the lower half of the country, these guys can use like 80 rods. I mean, they look like shrimp trawls when they're out there catfishing. Up where we're from, we use 2 apiece. You know, it's like we're much better fishermen, us Yankees, much better fishermen. But, you know, so you've got these, and you're not catching fish. And you're fishing the corner of the hole, and you're fishing the front of the hole, and you're fishing right in the heart of the hole. Nothing. What can you do without a tool to see if it works? Okay? What can you do with a rattle then that can add something to it? Flatheads, channel cats, blue cat, I'm talking flatheads today. Flatheads love vibration. Have you all ever heard of the ampullate of Lorenzini? The ampullate of Lorenzini was a study done on great white sharks about the gel-filled pits in their chin that allow them to find bait through the power of electroreception. There's a fish in fresh water that also has that, and it's called the flathead catfish, and the catfish as a whole are the most sensory percept fish in fresh water. When we take one of them fish out of the water, people, we've done it so many times we take it for granted, but these fish are amazing. Catfish are freaking amazing. You know, you get tired, but anyway, don't get me off on that whole subject because I get all fired up and whatnot. Anyway, you're not catching anything. It's the perfect time to learn something. You're targeting this piece of cover, you're targeting the corner of the hole, no flathead bite. What tools do I have without moving my boat in this current, in this river, that I can change something up and see if it helps? Well, I can reel them in, and I can throw a rattle on. Yeah? I can throw a rattle on, see if the vibration and the movement and tight. Flatheads are stubborn. Guys, they're like the women. They don't listen. You know, they're gonna fight you on things. You're gonna have arguments. You know how it is. We're all married. Most of us are married men. We know how it is. It's a battle. They're stubborn. Okay. Sometimes you got to sweeten the pot a little bit. Flatheads do what they want when they want. Period. I've had baits, and I know. And I prefer I like to use big baits. And a lot of guys say big baits, they're talking 8 to 12 inches and stuff. I'm not, you know, we're going to talk baits here in just a second, because that'll lead into a lot of other things, and then I'm sure we're going to have a lot of questions and a lot of things to talk about. If you don't have tools in your boat, something else to try, and you're never going to know if it works. But at some point, you're going to get tired of hearing these guys say, well, we had a good day today. Okay? That's when sound, vibration. Did the mic just go dead?
Yep.
No. We got no mic. We got no mic. Got a power outage. Yo.
Does that hand mic work?
I think the whole system went down. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
All right then. We'll just move on. It's kind of like waking up in the morning and it's rainy. You either go fishing or, you know. So anyway, this here, we have a mic failure, kid. Where were you? I'm dying over here.
All right, let's see. Fox, if you want to use the mic, you can.
I would rather use the mic so I don't have to yell.
Perfect. Here you go. Just can sit.
Break out my guitar. But you don't want to hear that either. How's that? I wrote this one for you. This one's called Flathead Catfish Kick Ass. Anyway,
Take your time.
that was pretty funny. I work on stuff like that occasionally. Most of them don't work out so well. I'm glad I got one laugh today. All right. Gonna demonstrate for you. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Me and Shell we were experiencing some of these, exactly what I was talking about, down in Memphis, Mississippi River Monsters Tournament a year and a half ago or so. You trying to get me another dry erase marker? Dude, you rock. Thank you very much. You're looking out for me. That's what catfishermen do. You gotta look out for each other. So me and Michelle, we were struggling. You know, a lot of us from the north, we don't have a lot of experience catching blue cats. You know, there's a lot of water down in the southern part of the country, you know, and I'm really proficient at finding flatheads, and we were finding flatheads, but you know, it's very tough to anchor. There's a lot of current down there. There's a lot of current seams, things that make things tough. So we switched, you know, we switched to rattles and this planer board. And these are the offshore tackle planer boards. The booth is right over yonder by the window. What's your booth number, Nick? 3. Okay, Nick is not paying me to say any of this stuff I'm saying, by the way. I'm just telling you. These are a magnificent tool to have in your boat. And I'm going to tell you why. You're sitting in heavy current, okay? And you're fishing your typical set out behind your boat. With an offshore planer board, I can take this, and this is actually a right, so this will run this way. It's right, you're looking at it. As you're looking at me, it's right. Okay? So I'm fishing back here, and I've pretty much got my spread out back here, and I've got, you know, I got about 30 foot covered. pretty good. We only were running 14, 16 ounces of weight. But now I got a rock bank up here. And I know that that rock bank comes down in about 12 foot of water. Those rocks meet the hard bottom. And they form a rocky ledge, not a river ledge, a riprap ledge, right? So I can reel in everything, and I can move over there. Or I can hook up. And a lot of people find planer boards intimidating. I mean, you just look at them and you're like, a lot of people think, where do I start? You know, I think that's the problem. But anyway, I can take this planer board, hook it up, and I can let the current do the work for me. Okay? This planer board now rigged up. You got to put a little slack in here. I didn't put any slack in here. What'd you get me, pal? You're back.
Got plenty of them.
Oh, you just rocked,
Dry
man.
erase, not sure.
You're awesome. I'll play another song for you if you come back. All right, I'm gonna tune up. I got 2 guitars with me. Okay, so now you've got your offshore tackle planer board rigged up, right? We're obviously gonna run it deeper than this. There's several different sizes of these depending on how much weight you're gonna run. It all depends on how much weight you're gonna run. And again, if you follow me back to the booth, or if you really, really, really want to know more about these planer boards and how they work, go over to the offshore tackle booth and check it out. So what this allows me to do now, without moving, I can reel in 4 of these rods, say, change some fresh bait, maybe change my bait style completely, maybe change from live bait to a cut bait, correct? Or vice versa. Freshen up the bait I got. Maybe if I've got live bluegill out, I need to go to live shad, or I need to go to live moon eye, or I need to go to a live carp. Okay? And what this does is allow me right over there with that, see that young lady over there in the gray sweatshirt? Now I'm sitting here in 6 mile an hour current, facing that way out the back of my boat. But with this planer board, I can put a bait there in 6 mile an hour current. I don't have to reel all my junk in. I don't have to move my boat. But I can try this tool that I had in my boat. Not because I had to have it to catch fish. Not because somebody that you look up to is trying to force it down your throat. But because it's another tool that can be huge. So what I would do is, prior to coming into this area, I would have an estimated guess of how deep this is where these rocks meet the hard bottom. Okay? What we were doing in Memphis is we had an area, a long area, that was about 12, 13 feet deep where that rocky ledge was, and then it was a flat that dropped off in about 60 feet. But we were fishing this ledge on a current seam. And what we found out was, if I set a bait about 12 foot deep on one of the offshore tackle Pro Mags, the big boards, I could run it right over, and when that weight hit them rocks, the planer board would stop. So now I've got a bait laying right where the flat and the rocky ledge met. Okay? There's no other way to do that without going up there and anchoring on the bank. And in some situations, you don't want to anchor up there in that kind of current, that kind of water on the rocks with your boat, because your boat's going to take a pretty good beating. So now, I've sat here for 30 minutes, I've not caught a fish. But now, I've put fresh bait out, I've added different bait, I have added vibration and sound, and I have expanded my coverage area by about 50 feet on both sides. So now I can pretty much, that's a fresh hole now, right? I can give that another 20, 30 minutes. Is that gonna work for you every time? Absolutely not. So you never speak in absolutes when it comes to fishing, because nothing seems to happen the same way every time. However, you gotta have the tools in your boat. Again, this planer board's right over there, offshore data booth. Tell them I sent you. Only reason I'm pointing that out to you enough is because the owner has a lot more experience with the boards than I do. Even if you don't want to buy one, if you want to learn a lot more about them, go over there and check them out. This right here, when it all comes down to it, I've caught 80 to 85% of the flathead catfish I've caught in my life, I've caught on this rig right here. Everybody in here has tied this rig. It's a Carolina with a no-roll slip sinker rig with a right down to your hook. We know according to current, speed, cover, all that good juju stuff, that we can adjust the length of this leader to let our bait move more or less, right? Doesn't make a difference if you like to use 50-pound main, 40-pound leader line. I like to use the same throughout. I believe the word for that is homogeneous. That's the biggest word I've ever used in a seminar. In fact, I'm kind of surprised I remembered it. Do you still want to go on a guide trip, even after listening to me up here? Anyway, this can be adjusted a million ways to make the regular old Carolina rig much more effective. Like I said, you can adjust leader length according to cover, according to conditions. Flatheads don't like to feed much when the water temperature gets below 47, 50 degrees, okay? Get on the internet and say that and you'll spark a debate and firestorm, the likes of which most of you have never seen. People are very sensitive about that. I don't like to disturb flathead. They get pretty much lethargic after 47 to 50 degrees. You can catch them. You're going to snag quite a few of them. And I prefer to just leave them be. I like flatheads more than I like people. I just like to leave them be. Except you, Nick. You're all right. You too, Sean.
Yeah, thanks.
But other than that, you know, I like
I
flathead
was
that
wondering if I
much.
was going to be mentioned.
As you can tell by listening to me, I spend a lot of time alone. Right? No. Yeah. I've had a lot of conversations with myself in the boat. If you're a flathead fisherman and you really want to be good at it, and you really want to catch big fish consistently, you can watch a lot of YouTube. These are things we didn't have when we were kids. These people nowadays can learn how to be really good fishermen and learn a lot of tips, and you can become a very proficient fisherman in a matter of a season. You know, a lot of these people, you can get on the internet, you can watch YouTube videos, you can see the rigs, you can see the people are putting charts up there, you can see what ledges look like, and the tighter the iso bars are together, you know it's a steeper drop in the wind. And there's just a ton of things. You start to learn when you go flathead fishing, you start to learn to watch the weather the night before. I don't watch the weather for fronts and moon phases and things along that line per se, because I've been a guide for 15 years. I gotta find a fish for somebody regardless of where the moon's at, regardless of what the wind direction is. But finding out the wind direction, I believe, is the most important thing the night before a trip. If you have options, and you know you're gonna be fighting a 30-mile-an-hour wind, I wanna know that in advance. I'm gonna fish a certain section of a river based on the wind direction alone. Because again, fishing flatheads, especially during the summer months when they're set up on cover, is all about bait placement and boat placement. And if the wind is messing with you, and you didn't check the weather the night before, and you're already out there and you're like, man, if we would have put in 20 miles upstream, that stretch of the river would have been out of the wind, and we could have sat, we could have put our baits where we wanted, and we'd have had a better day. So that's a big deal. Watch the weather before you go fishing. I know you're all, you know, temperature means a lot, and all that stuff means a lot too. Water temperature means a lot. I'm interested the night before I go in wind direction. And if it's cool outside, and I'm going flathead fishing, and I'm going to be fishing tight to cover, and I don't watch the weather, I know what's going to happen the next day. I'm going to be swinging back and forth in front of a piece of cover, snagging all my stuff up, and I'm going to be making up new cuss words. And it could have all been avoided had I watched the weathermen. Now, weathermen, I know, have a strong tendency to be liars. I mean, they lie through their teeth. They're wrong. First of all, is there any weathermen in here? No meteorologists in here? Okay. Weathermen are horrid, lying individuals. And you can almost never trust them. That's why you should always have a backup plan. If you do get stuck, and you really want to go fishing, and you're going to go flathead fishing, get out there and the wind's really bad, things are really rough, and you're forced, per se, some of some of us will just wear more clothes, right? And we'll just stick to the plan. But if you do have to lose, there's other things you can look for flatheads other than just cover. Number one thing for flathead, thing that I would encourage you to look for is big, singular pieces of cover. One piece, not a brush pile, not a huge log jam, one singular piece of cover. A big flathead will take refuge on a place like that. He will call it home. He won't always be active. He won't always be in the root ball. You won't always get him to bite. But it's the best place, whether it's a rock or a piece of wood or whatever it is, a singular piece of, flatheads don't know how big they are. They just know what they like. And over years of trial and error, I know singular pieces of cover will produce big fish. Okay? Then number two, you can move on down the line and on the line, but they like rock, they like wood, they like bridge pillars. You see, bridges are like magnets for fishermen, right? But it's the cover that flathead that a lot of people don't see or they don't take the time to look for that are the most productive. Now you have a hole, a rock the size of my head. Of course, I've got a great big old quad head, but a rock the size of my head could hold the biggest fish, the biggest flathead in the whole system. Okay. Now the other big thing that will touch off a firestorm and flatheads that I'm going to clear up for you. People say flatheads are territorial. They're solemn critters. They don't like other people being around. You find a big fish, he's going to be alone, he's going to run everything off. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard about flatheads. Flatheads are no more territorial than blue cats and channel cats. During the spawn, they are. But let me ask you this, and that's serious. You want another man in your bedroom with your wife? Why didn't anybody say no? Are you all sick? Whatever. Maybe it's a southern thing. I don't know. I'm just talking. Whatever. During the spawn, all fish are territorial. Channel cats are territorial. Flatheads are. Blue cats are. Crappie are. Them little blue things, bluegill, they are. Big fish. They're all territorial, right? Post spawn. The only thing about a flathead that's territorial in post-spawn is, if there's a big log in the river that he likes to feed on, he's going to be in the best spot on that log to feed. If he's not active, if he ate a 3-pound carp last night, and he's not really active, he may be laying back on that log, underneath a limb, just chilling out, right? And there might be a smaller fish up on that root ball in the spot you would call the active spot, right? That don't mean the big fish isn't there. He's just not active at that time. If he wants to feed there, he'll feed there. That's when, yeah, he'll run anything else off that's there. But to call a flathead territorial and say, where you find a flathead, you'll never catch a channel cat, you'll never catch a balloon. It's just not true. It does happen. Again, so I find that a little weird. But in fishermen, all y'all watch in fishermen videos. Again, you're a bunch of liars. Nobody raise their hand again. Y'all got sore arms or something happened? Okay, I'm starting to get a little bit of a complex. Like, is this thing on? I played that song for y'all, and y'all thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, in fishermen, in the dawn of the Flathead with their big cat safari, right? They hadn't really got into Flathead yet. And they started a lot of misconceptions about Flathead. And it cost a lot of people a lot of nights of sleep. Because one of the first things they said is, the big fish come out at night, right? How many of you still believe, or still prefer, let's not go with believe, let's go with prefer to fish at night for flatheads? And is that because you just enjoy fishing at night, or is that because you feel like that's when your best chance to catch a big one is?
Less pleasure boaters.
Just a personal, you just like to fish at night. You know, for years, when this first, when the flathead, when more and more people started to get into this flathead movement, I've been a guide for 15 years. People still call me today and say, we're going at night, what time do I need? And they're shocked when I tell them I don't fish for them at night. So why? They say, well, why? They act like they're pretty dumbfounded by that. But I can tell you, they are a structure-oriented. Any of you now would you please raise your damn hands when I say, thank you, sir, you're awesome. But wait till I answer the question next time. You're way ahead of the game. How many of y'all hunt deer? Gosh dang, we got you. I love you guys right here. Right here. You guys rock. Okay. If there's an animal on the face of the planet that I could compare a flathead catfish to, it's a white-tailed deer. And that's weird, considering one lives on land and one doesn't, and all that. But they're very cover-oriented in a lot of situations. Yes, dear?
Will they move into the shallow water at night to feed?
Yeah, they will. What was I talking about? You disrupted my whole flow. Deer. Yeah, deer.
Yeah, you were hunting deer.
Deer. Yeah. So deer, they have a small home range a lot of times, except during the rut, right? They're very cover oriented. We've learned over the years that a great time to shoot a big deer, we don't catch deers down here, do you? Because that just drives me nuts. Okay, nobody's catching deers, all right? We find out now that some of the best time to target deer is what? Middle of the day. Because they have us patterned, right? I catch most of my flatheads in the middle of the day. Why is that? Why do I prefer that? Number one, I love getting into that heavy cover and fishing. I just enjoy it. There's nothing better than finding a piece of cover, buried where nobody else is looking, getting your boat anchored up on it, getting baits on it, But the main reason why I enjoy targeting mostly during the day is because I know where they're at. Okay? I know there's times during the year, pre-spawn, the fall movement, wintering months, when they move quite a bit to and from areas, right? But for the most part, I know where they're at during the day. They're in the cover. Nighttime, they move all over the place. A lot of them move shallow. That's why so many guys catch them up on the bank, maybe on throw lines or bank holes or whatever. I don't talk about that stuff much. They do. If they're going to move around, it's going to be, they move around mostly at night. I'd rather go after them in the day in the cover. Okay? I know they're there. I know if I target 8 or 10 or 12 really good pieces of cover with good bait, odds are in my favor of catching good fish. Yeah. And one thing we can't do with fishing is make it harder than what it is. There's going to be days when they win. Correct? There's days you tip your hat to them and say, you know what, you little, insert your own personal swear word in there. But they just win. You try all the cover, you change baits, you try your offshore planer boards, you put on some rattles, and it's just not your day. They're just shut off or whatever. You just tip your cap to them. So let's get into bait a little bit. So if you take one more step, I'll have you flogged. And I even know you guys, and you're still walking out. You're leaving my seminar for an in-law? Don't you ever come back. You better be here tomorrow, noon. I'm not very good fan of yours anymore. All right, no, it's okay. You just go. I'm hurt. I'm hurt now. Oh, yeah. See you, honey. All right. So let's talk bait a little bit. Bait's a pretty hot topic for people. You know, everybody has their own preference. It seems like overwhelmingly on the internet anyway, it's all about bluegill for a lot of people. Or bream, as you call them down here, right? Brim, bream, bros, whatever. Brim? Okay. I'm not trying to insult you all down here. It's just, you know, it's a tough learning. I was fishing with people that kept talking about catching perch. And they kept talking, and I thought this was a new species. See, we have yellow ring perch up where we're from, okay? And I'm thinking this guy here knows some stuff because I'm waiting for us to catch one of these mysterious perch, right? Well, I opened my live well, and I've got 15 bluegill in there. He said, well, you already got some. I said, what in the hell are you talking about? I said, perch. He said, brother, those are not perch. Those are brim bluegill. He said, they're perch. I mean, I ain't never been taken back as much on a boat. Anyway, we'll get off that. But it seems like the big thing, you know, your number one choice of baits for a lot of people is bluegill. And that's because they're easy to get, they're a good bait, they're a hardy bait, they live pretty well, all right? What is my favorite? I mean, if you were to ask me, somebody please ask me a question and ask me,
What's your favorite bait?
you guys, man, you guys are on it. I like it. You're on it. You guys have learned very well. I've had 3 people removed already. You don't want to be next. You don't get refunded. You can't go back. All right. If I had my choice, if the Lord came down, and I believe the Lord has a lot to do with a lot of things, and I'd rather have Him on my side than luck any day. But if I could magically walk out to my boat every day and there'd be 30 live baits in my live well, every day, it would be 15 to 20 inch shad. Okay? Everywhere, anywhere. And I know people will argue with you, but let them. Get the biggest shad you can get. Now you'll see around, there's a lot of bait tanks down here, there's a lot of stuff to keep shad alive. Fortunately for you all, I don't work for any of those companies. So I'm going to tell you, don't be intimidated by keeping shad alive because it's very easy. Okay? If you put a little work into it, you can keep shad alive. People freak out. Okay? It's very, no. You got to temper your shad, get 10, put them in a 5-gallon bucket. A shad's natural response to being scared is to throw their scales and to puke. That throws predators off their scent trail, okay? Temper them in a bucket for a while. When that bucket of water gets dirty, take those fish, put them in another bucket. Now I know you're saying, how many freaking buckets I got to take in my boat to do this? Just 2. Dump out that first bucket, put some fresh water in. Temper them 2 or 3 times, and eventually you'll have 10 in a bucket, and that water won't be getting dirty no more. They'll be nice and settled. Then take them, put them in your live well, and they'll live. I keep them alive in my live well sometimes for 8 to 10 days. No $800 tank. No care products. Change out the water, keep the water cool. Okay? If you temper them and keep that water clean and cool, you can keep shad alive. Now, again, no offense to these companies selling tanks because they work very well and they can help a lot of you recycle. Yes, sir?
What's your daytime temperature when you're doing that?
And that's a big point. When the water temperature gets up over 75 into the 80s, it's a lot more work. You got to keep the water clean a lot more because once it starts to warm, if you let the water warm, especially when you take them out of warm water, they will die. Just how hard you want to work to keep them alive is up to you. To me, it's worth it because I know how good of a bait it is. I know, and I really believe it. I threw a 15-inch live shad in front of a root ball one day, and I caught I think 27, 28 pound flathead, which is still a nice fish. He had a 15-inch walleye sticking out of his belly, and he ate that shad anyway. That's like me over at the Golden Corral. You know what I'm saying? I'm still chewing up 4 or 5 shrimp, and I got a piece of fish. Again, I think that's why we don't see a lot of 80, 90, 100 pound flathead being caught. I really believe there's a lot of them out there. I just feel like they're eating such big baits, and we're not doing that. I feel like they're eating a giant bait, and they're only feeding once every 2, 3, 4 days. I feel like they'll run down 5, 10, 15 pound fish, they eat one, and then they don't feed again for 6 days. So if you ain't throwing a bait that big, I feel like, there'll be some bigger ones caught, but I really feel like with flathead, you see, the blues are just dumb. The blues are dumb. They just run around and go, hey Fred, look at that. They swallow all the big, they don't know no better. They just float around the river and they eat anything fly, Flatheads are a very more advanced species of catfish. And they go for the filet mignon, now it's just bumping down the river, you know what I'm saying? So, that's my belief on why you're not seeing, because we're seeing bigger and bigger and more blues being caught, right? And the reason why a lot of people ask, I get that asked a lot of times, why are we not seeing the giant flatheads being caught, 80, 90, 100 and bigger? I think part of the answer is around throwing those sizes of baits, and most people are not gonna, I don't even. And paylays, which we can talk about or we cannot talk about, but that's neither here nor there. Now, I'd go up forward because I know somebody's got to have some questions, because I've been running off the mouth for a while. Yes, sir.
Fishing that bigger bait, are you double hooking using a trailer hook or anything?
I am not. I will double hook my bait, but I don't move for flatheads. I fish on the rope all the time. On the rope means anchor, okay? So I don't double hook them. And believe this or not, the bigger the bait I use, the better my hookup rate is. And it's like they're not going to play with a 15 or 18-inch bait. They're going to inhale it, and the head's going to be down here, and the tail's going to be inside their mouth. And when you set a hook, I rarely miss a fish on a great big bait, but I miss fish on small baits a lot. So no, you're dragging, drifting, that kind of stuff. A lot of them fish you're seeing being caught on those guys that are dragging and drifting they're not targeting flatheads. That just happens to be what they caught that day. Yes, ma'am.
So do you have to use a circle hook to catch the big trophy fish?
That's another issue we didn't get to with the catfishing is style of hook. I know circle hooks have kind of taken over the market lately. I do not advise circle hooks for flatheads for a lot of reasons, but the main reason is the style of the way I fish for flatheads. When I'm targeting a flathead on this, the root ball that's right here 10 feet behind me, okay? And I'm targeting the flathead. I'm putting my chips in the middle, right, that he is on one side of that root ball. When he inhales that bait, he is not going anywhere, okay? A lot of these flatheads suck in your bait. You see the pop on your rod. It goes over a little bit, maybe a little bit more, and that's all you get a lot of times. With a circle hook, in that situation, remember my words, in that situation, you have no chance to hook that fish. Okay? The circle, he needs to turn and move away from you so that hook rotates into the corner of the mouth. Okay? If you're going to start targeting flathead to specifically catch bigger and more flathead on cover, you need to use a J-hook. That would be my advice to you. Or you're going to get a lot of this, a lot of this, and a lot of that. Yes, sir?
How long do you sit on the spot before you either change your tool or change your spot?
I'll sit 30 to 45 minutes for flatheads. If I'm fishing in shallow cover, the current's really nice on both sides of the root ball and it's shallow. I mean, a lot of time, it seems like most of the time when you're going to catch a fish on a piece of cover, it seems to happen more times than not in the first 10 minutes. But it happens enough to me 20 or 30 minutes in that I like to give it 30 to 40 minutes. When I do a guide trip, the last thing I want to do is take a guy out, sit on 1 or 2 pieces of cover for 6 or 8 hours, and maybe catch 1 fish. When I can move and hit 12 or 13 acres and maybe catch 4, 5, 6 flatheads. Okay? I like to run and gun. I know a lot of people's idea of flathead fishing is going out, finding a hole, sitting on it, putting your baits in it, sitting all night. Again, absolutely nothing wrong with that. They enjoy catfishing, right? They enjoy sitting in their boat, having a drink, maybe a bush tea, maybe, a little kamikaze, a little whatever, whatever. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. And in fact, that's the essence of catfishing that is so freaking wonderful. Okay, we're not to the point yet. We don't have to sit there and cast and retrieve and cast and retrieve and cast and retrieve. We don't have to do that. We want to sit for 12 hours and sit there with our bait in the water. We can do that. That's okay. And we'll catch a big fish every once in a while. We're just trying to improve your odds of catching these big flathead more often. That's all. Yes, sir. I hook all my baits behind the dorsal fin, towards the rear of the bait, depending on how large they are, how deep I go. I want to hook them as thin as I can. Okay? And which brings me to a point that I kind of forgot when we were talking about boat placement, or even if you're bank fishing. They say that catfish are so sensory perceptive, you gotta be quiet, right? Well, this is another point that I bring up that's really kind of dumb. I mean, it really is. You get a bunch of drunk hillbillies slopping around in the river, spitting tobacco, drinking beer, running down, and they stick their hand in a hole, and the damn fish don't run nowhere. Just bites them and comes out of the hole, right? You're telling me that if I'm up there in the boat talking to my wife, I'm gonna scare all the catfish away. I'm not saying we need to do jumping jacks and, juggle 10-pound weights and drop down. I'm just saying, it's not like you've got to try and beat the Pink Panther, but I like, when I'm throwing big baits, obviously, I do not want to throw them 40 yards or 40 feet even, okay? Because I want to hook them thin, I want them to stay on, I want to be close. I don't want to throw them any further than where, the guys with the catfish hats on, and that's pushing. Yes, sir. Yeah, that guy right there. I really don't even want to throw them that far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run up way high of my cover, and you're going to carry a little, because listen, flathead fish, you're going to do a little work. You're going to catch your bait, you're going to keep your alive, you're going to do your homework. You're going to find the submerged cover. You're going to do a little work. But the reward, I mean, listen, if you can hold a 40 or 50-pound flathead in your hand and you're not shaking and excited, then you don't belong in the world that I live in. And I'm not saying, these fish are amazing. They're absolutely amazing fish. Amazing. Again, I like them more than I like people. Get way up above your cover, get a lot of anchor rope, float back, get up on that cover, get them big baits right where you want them. Put 2 baits on the front of that cover, get 2 baits, throw them out to the side, let the current and the bait itself work that into the cover, down the log a little bit on the limbs. Now you've got 4 baits on that log, that singular piece of cover. If he's there, you know what I'm saying? Your butthole ain't puckering then, boy, you got a problem. You ought to be all kinds of excited about what's about to happen. It's going to go down. And it ain't going to happen every time. And you're going to catch a 6-pounder sometimes where you thought you'd catch a 60-pounder. Right? But when it happens, when you do all your homework, you find that log, you get your big baits where they need to be, you catch that big one, brother, you're going to walk in your house like you're marrying 4 supermodels, Like you got the big old truck out in the driveway and gold chains. I mean, you're just strutting around, posting stuff on the internet about, look at me, I'm ready to be on pro staff. And if you don't feel that way, take up crappie fishing or something else, something leisurely that you can do really finesse and pretty. You know, there's something for everybody. But these fish are amazing fish. And when you do it right and you catch them, you know, I'm telling you, you do all that homework and you catch one, sir, the only thing you'll be thinking about is doing it again. I can promise you that. Yes, sir.
Michael, comments about selective harvesting.
Yes, sir.
What rules do you follow besides?
Okay, my thoughts on selective harvest are as follows. I choose to not kill flatheads, period. Again, I like flatheads more than people. There's several people in this building I'd probably rather choke than a flathead. Okay? That's just me. But am I gonna look down on you if you decide to take an 8-pounder home and eat? No. Channel cats? Channel cats to me, when I want to eat channel cats, I can go out and catch enough channel cats where I can keep males. And I'll try to keep 10 male channel cats. And that's 2 meals for me in my life. And when they're gone, maybe I'll go catch 10 more. But I hear people talking about they got to rotate stock because the new fishing season's come up and they got so many fish in there from last year. What? I don't understand that. I've kept my share of fish in my time. And again, when I touch on the big fish thing, you cannot call somebody out, tell them their wife's ugly, threaten to beat up their kids and them if you see them keeping a big fish. You lose the chance when you do that to forever change that person's view on why you shouldn't keep a big fish. You need to befriend that person, encourage them, explain to them why you do it, and just maybe 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5, you'll change. But listen, a flathead catfish can lay 38, 40,000 eggs in the spawn, okay, or more, depending on body size. If you convince a guy to start letting his big fish go, and he catches 3 or 4 big flatheads this summer, and that one guy lets those 3 or 4 big fish go, you have changed the future of that body of water. You are responsible for 10 more or 20 more trophy fish in the future just because you changed his views. But if you go calling him a dickhead because you hurt him, because you call him all names under the sun, he's gonna keep him out of spite. So what I try to do is encourage those people and befriend them, and everyone that I can convert to see why. Because these same people will tell you not to put a knife to a big pregnant walleye in the spring or the winter. You know, and I get that too. Walleye's what they're passionate about. They want them big females to breed, right? Why can't they see that in the catfish world too? We want our big females in the water to breed as well. So that's my view on CPR. Yes, sir.
Live bait versus cut bait.
Yeah, live bait versus cut bait. You know, cut bait is also a great option for flatheads. Okay. There's times and places, and there's things that we don't know. And this is what I love about people. I'm gonna try to say this with a little emphasis. We only know tendencies. We do not know what really is going on 3-4 foot below the surface. We don't know. There are years where it seems like they are on cut bait, and there's nothing different with the water than the year before when it was all about live bait. It's just one of them. I'm just going to chalk that up, and it's just one of them things. But when I go out targeting flatheads, I'm throwing live bait first. Now, when the water starts to cool, back into the mid-60s, low 60s, okay, then I'm thinking smaller live baits and more cut baits. As their metabolism drops, okay, they're looking for something easier to digest, something small. But at the peak of the metabolism, I'm wanting to catch them on live baits just because I think that's cool. I love throwing a big live bait out there catching a big fish.
Would you take that same approach in the springtime when the water starts to warm up?
Absolutely. Start with cut baits, small live baits, and then work your way up the scale. As you start to catch more fish, work your way up the scale, and as soon as they start eating 5, 6, 7 inch baits, then just balls to the wall, baby.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
You ever run a clicker, you always have a lockdown.
I never run a clicker. I never run a clicker because I don't want them to get the bait in the belly. And if that costs me a fish every once in a while, then I'm okay with that. I want to see that pop on the rod. I want to pick that rod up with my hand. I want them to pump me down until my rod's horizontal with the water, and then I settle it. I've done it the same way for 25 years. I've missed a few fish here and there, but I can count on one hand how many fish I've got hooked. And that's why I just do it that way. And like I said, again, if it costs me a fish every once in a while because he ain't got it all the way in his mouth, I'm okay with that. Sometimes flatheads do that. They like to kill baits, play with the food, they squeeze them and they move them, and they're not actually eating them, but you know, that's okay. I'm okay with that. Again, you don't always win. And sometimes they win. And those are the days when, okay, cool. What's up? What's up, Mr. Chris?
When fishing like a bridge pilot, we have a ton of bridges in Pittsburgh area. Are they going to be more on the back, like bottom side of the current? Or are they going to be tucked in along the side? Like, where's the best? I know we get a lot of jigs above them too. What's the best?
That's a great question because it applies to more than just bridge pilings. It applies to everything else. A lot of people that I get on guide trips are fishing has them stymied, and they're doing everything right. It's not like I'm smarter or any other guide or anybody else is smarter. It's amazing how much people that get in your boat actually know, and they're just missing. They're anchoring behind the cover. They're anchoring. They're just off a little bit. The difference between being a real consistent fisherman and struggling is a small line. You know, it's a very small line, but you want to fish. You always want to be in front of that cover. Okay, now there's a time and place. I got known for a lot when I was young. I like to pull my boat up into log jams, and I like to get out and walk on the log jams and drop baits down through the holes. And again, there's days when the aggressive fish are up
trying
on
to
the
go
front of that
live
cover.
with every
There's
seminar.
also days when there's fish that'll eat that are back in that cover. So, but the bridge pilings, yeah, I would like to have 2 baits on the front, 2 baits on the side, and then if you can't get them in one anchor, you know, but I would like to fish the front, the middle, and the rear of that, you know, on those bridge pilings if I could. He could be laying anywhere. Typically, if you catch a big aggressive one off one of them pilings, that big aggressive fish, when you're catching the next time, will be in the same place. I caught tagged fish 9 years apart on the Rock River, 10 feet apart from each other. Now I know there's been a lot of studies done on migration and stuff. Migration is kind of relative to the water, the system they're in. Some flatheads have no choice. They live in a 20-mile pool of water. They're never going to move. And listen, in those small and medium-sized rivers, if you can find a place for a flathead to winter, have cover, and eat, and spawn, he doesn't ever need to leave. That's all he wants to do. But if you've got a flat, you've got a ledge, you've got a hole, you've got 2 big logs in it, you've got some... Why in the heck would you go 30 yards? I'm just going to go out for a swim? I mean, you know. But I mean, there has been studies done in some of your bigger river systems, Mississippi, where some flatheads have traveled a long ways. But more studies have been done that indicate that they don't move a lot. So, but again, I know I kind of got off your subject, but I answered your question on bridge builders. I don't want you coming up to the booth later and saying, you didn't answer that, because I put up with it. Any other questions?
Yeah, do you prefer a medium heavy or a heavy rod for flathead?
That's a great, man, you guys are asking some good questions. I am anti-broom pole. Again, you'll have some people tell you that, man, you gotta have that We gotta have that, and I'm only doing this southern voice because it's a particular individual that I hear saying this all the time, and I think he's ridiculous. Man, you got to have yourself one of them heavy poles. You gotta have 100-pound braid, and you need one of them great big 10-aught, and one of them big 10 thick wire 10-aught hooks. And man, that thing takes off now. You just pull that sucker out of there. If I want to do that, I'm just going to buy a battery and some leads, and you might just shock the fish and have it float to the top, because that's not fishing. I mean, I thought hooking a fish and letting the rod bend and using your drag and fighting that fish to the boat, that's all the fun in the whole dang thing. If you ain't going to do it that way, just get a commercial fishing license and catch them on in a net. Why in the hell do you want to just drag fish off the bottom floor anyway? So, to answer that question, I get a little emotional sometimes. You know what I'm saying? I'm a little pissy. But as you'll see, this is a medium fast. Most people expect that flathead catfish being a big bruiser, you know, if they're going to take a rod and they're going to double it tip to tip, and that's just not what they do most of the time. Most of the time you get a quick slap on the end of the rod, and then the rod tips over slowly. And it's kind of a stop and go, stopping, and the reason, did anybody know why that is? That's because the flathead catfish swims head first. They don't swim tail first, they move their head. So when their head moves, then it stops, and it goes, okay? That's why that happens. Little factor. Anybody know what melanin is? Melanin. Melanin is a chemical that the flatheads have that allows them to change the color of their skin to blend into their surroundings. They're not accidentally yellow or green or brown or black. They do that because where they hunt, on the bottom, somewhere, that's the color that blends them in the best. Again, these are magnificent animals. If people did a little more studying, they wouldn't even think about keeping some of these fish to keep it. They're magnificent animals. But anyway, they're typically a light biter. Typically. I mean, sometimes you go get one, but I love that tip. I want to be able to, you'll get used to the way a bluegill moves, you'll get used to the way a shad moves, you'll get used to the way a mooneye moves, carp. When you run each bait enough, you'll get used to the way they move. And when a flathead swallows them, that movement all changes. It comes to a halt, and then it's, hold on to my belt loop, mama, I think I got one. I answered, I got, okay? Yes? Yes, yes ma'am.
So with them planer boards, because a blue and a flathead bite is different, and you're using a different hook, does the planer board react different depending on what is on the other
Yes.
hook?
Yes, it does react differently, and one of the biggest pleasures of my life was being able to have the owner's offshore tackle in the boat and have a flathead take a planer board down one day. It was amazing. The planer board literally just stands up. It's almost like the Titanic going down. It stands up and then it just, and if somebody could play the theme from Jaws when that happened in your boat, when that was happening, it would be like the coolest thing ever. But it's really neat. And again, if you're moving, if you're dragging those planer boards and they grab one, it would be a different scenario, right? Because you're moving the bait, so they're going to be moving to grab it. You know, they're smart. Flathead are smart. They don't want to chase their bait if they don't have to. They will to survive, but they don't want to. Just like me. I want my wife to bring me dinner. She's not always going to do that.
She doesn't apply.
But she does do a lot. But I'm just saying, you know, so that's the way that is. Any other questions?
What size and brand hook do you prefer?
If I'm going to run circle hooks, which I will only run circle hooks if I'm moving, again. And then, to me, when you're moving, you're not targeting flatheads, because that's just not typical. I would run flathead feeder circle hooks. But this hook right here, this is a 7/0 hook. A lot of people are going to say this is way too small to hook a 17-inch shad and catch a 50-pound flathead. But I got a bunch of pictures that'll prove all you wrong. I've caught probably 1,400 flatheads on this style of hook. It's just an offset. It's called a sickle hook. Okay? J hooks. There's some good J hooks out there. Tackling Cat sells a good J hook. So if I'm gonna run a J style hook, it's this sickle right here. And if you want to see it, you can order them on the internet and whatnot, but they're not. This hook has been a very good hookup for me. Like that clicker on that Recon? Yeah, come down to the casting booth and check that stuff out. Yes, sir.
Do you do anything different
To catch the big baits? I poke, dude, I'm poking and hoping and praying just like everybody else. You know, because bait's more frustrating than catching fish. I never seen anything that frustrate a man would make you want to rip your skin off more than bait. I mean, you go out one day, you know, throw your net once, you got enough bait to use for 10 months. Then the next 3 days, you can't find a piece of bait nowhere, you know,
Yeah,
I said,
I'm gonna
with
try
the
to
good Lord's
get
interventions,
everybody.
if I can use
I'll post a picture
15-20 inch shad,
of the
followed by
seminar layout.
live moon eye and live carp. I like bluegills and bullheads. I like them more around the spawn time. They're more known as a bait robber. And I believe a lot of times during the spawn, some of your male flatheads, they won't eat a bait, they just kill them. I don't really like to catch males once they're guarding the bed, but when you get heavy pre-spawn and stuff, and it's just starting to slow down, I like to use bullheads and bluegills then.
When you fish blue eye, you find best in higher temperatures up, below, making a difference.
As cut bait,
No, it's whole bait.
as whole bait, no, I don't think so. Again, as a cut bait for flatheads, when the water temperature gets that hot, I love moon eye and skipjack as a cut bait. I don't care for them too much as a live bait. They're just not as active when the water gets that warm as they are when the water's cooler. That's when I prefer. The shad will still move, and then, you know, carp. I love carp. Small carp are great. You know, 2 pound, about a pound and a half carp. Good. That's the biggest reaction you get for somebody that doesn't flathead fish and they come on a trip. The first time you hook up a 15-inch bait, they look at you like you are the biggest dummy. I mean, I've had some people look at me. I mean, they don't believe that they're going to catch anything on that. Now, I've caught plenty of 6 and 7 pound flathead on a 15-inch bait or 14-inch bait. I mean, if they can get it in their mouth, they'll eat it. They'll find a way to eat it. You know. Any other questions?
What about
Yes, sir. He was 52, I think. That was the first big flathead I had ever caught on a rod and reel. I had caught a lot of flatheads up to 10 or 12. That was about 22, 23 years ago. And once I caught that
That's
fish,
Josh from the Weekend
there was-
Angler. He's sitting right
there was
behind
just-
me.
There was nothing else swimming for me. And I still go channel catfish, and I still fish for blues, but I was hooked then. So I've been fortunate to catch a lot bigger than that, but that was the one that got me started.
Did you keep your rod for memory?
No, I had it for years and I lost it. I would have still liked I had it, but it is what it is. Any other questions?
What about creek chubs? Do you like using creek chubs?
I do like using creek chubs. The big reason why I don't use creek chubs is because I can't hold on to them little. I mean, them things, you want to have a bait get in your boat and just flat piss you off. I mean, that's a creek chub. A creek chub will piss you off. If you have never been angry in your boat, go get 10 creek chubs. Don't take a bait net with you, and by the time you get that thing on a hook, you'll be pissed off. I promise you. Give that a try this summer if you ain't, and then give me a call back and say, "You're right, man. I've never been mad at my boat. Hell, I stopped fishing." Suckers are great too, absolutely. And I kind of missed the whole sucker thing. I was talking to Clark, but yeah, suckers are great. That it, everybody?
I think so.
Well, I appreciate y'all a bunch for listening to the ramble on. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Enjoy the rest of the conference.
We're gonna have to turn this around here. Nope.
Hey there. Hello.
Figure this out. Nope.
You're welcome. Thank you. You're welcome.
Here we go. Now I talked to everybody for a few. Like charger on the phone. I'm gonna try and go live with every seminar. That way I can bring it to everybody that can't make it.
I run my big boat up there, but
Is this you?
yes.
Okay, I'm gonna have that.
All right, Jim. For everybody.
Well, all the stretches have
Hopefully I see
vulnerable areas because
whoever I can tomorrow.
there's areas in them all that
Service is pretty, ain't too shabby here. And just glad I can go live. Alright, I'm gonna jump off here, charge my phone up for the next one.